get up with another field day. The Columbus QB ready for one more chance to prove he should go number 2. Meanwhile, Tampa Tom talks, and if you pay attention, you learn the one simple reason he is the greatest of all time. You will hear it coming up. And then you won't believe what Jerry Jones wants Dallas to do at the top of the NFL draft. All that and more on the way as we get up with you starting right now on a very exciting Thursday. Greeny here, delighted you've chosen to get up with us. We put together a great squad to get into all the action from last night and around the world of football for you. But of course, the action today, all eyes are on Augusta, Georgia, Augusta National, round 1 of the Masters. Coverage today on ESPN. And just moments ago, the legendary Lee Elder joining Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player on the opening tee, the ceremonial opening tee shots. There's Jack hitting his right down the middle of the fairway, and they are underway at Augusta. And you see some of the tee times today that will be notable, including Dustin Johnson looking for his pursuit of another green jacket at 10:30 a.m. You can watch him and everybody else today on ESPN and on ESPN Plus, and we will keep you posted through the morning on how it's going. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about Justin Fields, who is expected to take part in Ohio State's second pro day on April 14th. It's important because the Niners general manager John Lynch and coach Kyle Shanahan, who are looking to draft a quarterback at number 3, will now have the opportunity to get an up-close look at him. They went to Alabama rather than Columbus for the first day of pro days. And as you see, Todd McShay anticipates Justin Fields falling to becoming the 5th quarterback in this class. If you go back several months, it would be quite the surprise for that to be the case. And so let me bring the group that's in here with us this morning to talk about this. Oh, look who's gotten up with us early today. Jeff Darlington is ready to go. D. Wood's going to play that piano for us. And our draft insider, Matt Miller, is going to be with us here today. And Matt, I will start with you. Tim Hasselbeck yesterday said he thinks that Justin Fields has MVP caliber talent, NFL MVP caliber talent. If that is the case, why is everyone projecting him to be the 5th quarterback in this draft?
Hey, Greeny, I think that's the biggest question of the entire draft process right now is what is the difference between what we've seen from Justin Fields over the last 2 years at Ohio State where he lose the game in the Big Ten versus what we're hearing now. And even with mock draft, having him as the 5th quarterback selected, I think we're seeing some people look at what happened with Dwayne Haskins, the failure that he was in the NFL, and assigning that to Justin Fields instead of like this. These are very different players, very different prospects. So I think that is one key right now, and hopefully that's why John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are taking that trip to Columbus, Ohio. It's not just to get some frequent flyer miles, it's to actually see, hey, is there something to Justin Fields that we have missed? Is there something here that maybe we've fallen a little too quickly for Mac Jones? So the hope would be that they're still evaluating this thing because I think Justin Fields is a fantastic player. He's my number 2 quarterback in this draft. Why people are overlooking him, I think that's one of the hardest questions to answer right now in terms of NFL circles because everyone's asking the same question. Everyone I talk to says the same thing. Why is everyone overlooking him? Hopefully they're not, and maybe we're just all a little late on realizing who falls in love with him.
Jeff Darlington, what do you hear from people around the league about Justin Fields and the potential for him to fall this way?
Yeah, I would say that if we're all asking why we're overlooking him, it probably means that we're not overlooking him. And that's always the curious thing to me. What will happen on the day of the draft? Every year, and this is not to totally knock the mock draft system, but every year we do have guys that fluctuate before and after the draft. It's ultimately what team falls in love with Justin Fields, and that is what we are about to find out. It's the reason, to your point, about why the 49ers are going to go to this pro day. All it takes is one team. Every year, if one team decides Justin Fields is their guy, they'll be willing to do what it takes to draft him at the appropriate spot.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out again, what we're talking about here is him being drafted something like 8th or 11th. And we're not talking about him slipping into the second day. So falling is a relative term, but 5th in the class is still 5th in the class. D. Wood, you watch him play. What do you think of all this?
Greeny, I think all of this is crazy. I mean, you're talking about, we're talking about like the San Francisco 49ers trading up to number 3. If you trade up to number 3, you're going up to get a guy who you feel has elite traits, things that you can't teach, on top of all the other skills that comes with it takes to be a quarterback in the National Football League. And for everyone, it's just madness to me how everyone's talking about Justin Fields slipping all the way down to 5. What are people watching? I've watched Justin Fields over the last 2 years dominate the Big Ten, one of the best conferences that we have in college football. He can do it all. On top of the physical traits that I touched on, 6'3", 230, runs a 4.4. You mean to tell me that in the Kyle Shanahan offense, one of the best, if not the best offensive mind, he couldn't take that young man and make him into an MVP type of quarterback? It just blows my mind.
You know, Matt, you've been around the draft process a long time, and one of the things that I find most interesting is the season ends, the games themselves end, and there is one perception. And then we go into the process, and things tend to get reshuffled. And maybe a good description of the entire process would be overthinking. Is it possible that people go into this thing and they just overthink it, and instead of believing what they see on the film, they all of a sudden start going to a bunch of other data that doesn't necessarily add up to anything? Are we overthinking it, or is the league overthinking it on Justin Fields?
Oh, I definitely think so. I call it prospect fatigue, where you've over-evaluated a player where we've been watching Justin Fields since he was a sophomore in high school. We know who he is. We know how good he is. So I do think that happens, Greeny. It happened last year to Justin Herbert, who was the third quarterback drafted. I think it happens this year to Justin Fields as well, where he is probably going to be the fourth or fifth quarterback drafted, and in 3 years we're going to be like, hey, how'd that guy fall down the board? The NFL's not good at this. And we're going to have these great clips to go back to and say, hey, remember when we said he should be drafted a lot higher?
That's certainly possible. So let's leave that there for the moment, but we'll have more on that. And then let's talk about a quarterback who was actually drafted 199th, and that is Tom Brady, a sixth-round pick who worked out pretty well. It's been quite a year for him, of course. March of 2020, he announced that after 20 years and 6 titles, he was leaving New England. That was his last moment as a Patriot. Then he had a lot of great ones as a Buccaneer, including winning the Super Bowl on the back end of it in their home stadium. And the celebration, of course, was the stuff of legend. And the Bucs are now bringing back all 22 of their starters. And yesterday, Tom Brady talked with Michael Strahan on GMA about why he keeps playing.
So, Tom, what more do you have to prove? I don't think proving it for me is the motivation. Like, I still want to play. You know, I got like a little sickness in me that just wants to throw a freaking spiral, you know what I mean? Also about football, once you stop, you can't go back and do it. I got some more football in me, not a lot, and I know that, but what I got left, I'm gonna give everything I got.
It's a fascinating thing, and here are two guys who know him well. Jeff Darlington, who's covered him forever and is tight, and obviously D. Wood, you started your career playing with him. And so, D. Wood, I'll start with you, because you talked about his legendary competitiveness. You saw it at the beginning of his career, and maybe that's one of the big reasons why he's still out there doing it as he's getting set to turn 44 years old.
Yeah, Greeny, but I want to touch, that's absolutely correct. And I want to touch on something he said. He said, you can't go back and do this again. And if you ask any former player, that's the thing that they really miss about the game. How you walk into the stadium with 80,000, cheering you on or booing you. It's the little things that you don't get the opportunity to do again. So for Tom Brady, yes, we know he's won 6 Super Bowls. He's been to 9. He's had unprecedented success, the greatest quarterback of all time, in my opinion. But for him to be able to leave New England and go down to Tampa Bay and enjoy that type of environment, a different environment than the Patriot way, and ultimately win a Super Bowl, man, I'm like, go out there and play as long as you want, because you deserve and earn that right to go out there and do that.
The thing, though, about it, D. Wood, that's interesting is pretty much every former football player I've ever talked to, including you, said if it was just about Sunday, I would never have retired. I'd still be out there. But it's all the work that goes into it during the offseason. It's all the excruciating detail that you have to go through all week long. Yep. He embraces that. I mean, that's one of the things that separates him from a lot of other football players. What most people consider the grind is actually the part of it, D. Wood, that I think he loves the most.
Yeah, Greeny, that's what makes him special. There's a lot of good play. Listen, when you play in the NFL, everyone is good. There's some great players, but then there are players that are just on another level. That's the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Manning. Those guys, they love it. They love the process, and that's what Tom Brady's talking about. He loves the process. He loves the grind, getting, in the offseason, getting your body ready for a 17-game schedule. The mini camps, the training camp, he embraces all of that. Those are elite traits that not a lot of guys have playing this game.
So, Jeff Darlington, again, you will always be a favorite on the show because you were the one who broke the news of his going to Tampa live on our show. What is your sense of this? How long do we expect this to continue?
Well, at least another year beyond this one, that's for sure.